pledge allegiance
to
to the
the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic
Republic,
for which it stands, one
One
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
The notice
Okay,
requirements of the Open Publics Meeting Act for this meeting have been met by transmitting the notice of the regular meeting to the Commissioner's official newspaper on February 4th, 2021, posting the notice where required and filing a copy of the notice with the Commission clerk. The Dealey Commission meeting will be audio and videotaped and will be shown on APTV, Optimum 77, and throughout most of Monmouth County on FiOS 30. Allenhurst,
Here,
Asbury Park,
yes,
Deal, Interlaken,
Here,
Rock Harbor,
here,
Neptune, Ocean.
here,
A resolution to approve the minutes of the regular meeting from April 15th, 2021. Deal and Neptune do not vote. Someone please offer.
I'll
so
offer.
moved. Okay,
Second.
second, Ocean.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Deal Lake Commission held on April 15th, 2021, being the same, are hereby approved. Allenhurst,
yes,
Asbury Park,
yes,
Interlaken,
Yes,
Walk Harbor,
yes,
Ocean.
Yes,
A resolution to approve the treasurer's report and pay bills. Bruce, did you get the report?
I did. The total on deposit in the beginning of the month was 100.
yeah,
You hear me?
right there, sorry.
Can you hear me?
yes,
The total on deposit in the beginning of the month was $121,066.73. We had total receipts in the amount of $32,332.92. There were total disbursements of $5,647.62, making the total on deposit at the end of the month $147,752.03.
Someone please offer. Someone offer the bills to be paid? Karen.
Asbury Park offer,
Second,
Second, Allenhurst.
Allenhurst,
Yes.
Asbury Park,
yes,
Interlaken,
yes,
Walk Harbor,
yes,
Ocean.
yes.
Okay. Okay, Don, Bloom electrification.
Well, very exciting stuff, guys. We're almost done. We're days away. We have the new wrench with a mechanism that actually downshifts, down gears. It's a very fancy attachment to the standard drill that we use, and it can raise and lower the 72-pound guillotine. Mostly raise it, because lowering it's pretty easy with the wheels. We've got 2 extra wheels for the fire departments. We have our other part coming in, and we have the doors getting repaired. So, and the gauges are going in shortly. So all good news. The last camera is installed. The last camera is spectacular, and we're going to try to get that online. It shows the water going over the dam. It goes from south to north, and you can see everything going on. Debris in the flume, people swimming in the flume area. And that was the whole idea, is to keep it safe so we can open up the gates with nobody in the way, fishermen or whoever. So all that's done. And Peter, you got any updates on that?
Yes, I do. As Don said, work is virtually complete. We're meeting with the contractor tomorrow to finalize the last payment, or certify the last payment to him, which will be processed at a future meeting. And I have spoken to representatives of Ocean Township to advise them that Jesse and I will meet soon to go through the history of payments to the contractor, all of our vouchers, and process the request for reimbursement, which will make Ocean Township very happy because they'll be getting a chunk of that money.
Right. That's wonderful. Thanks, Pete. Any questions, guys, on that? Okay.
We're gonna have a day where we can all come over and see this thing in action.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, anytime you want, if I'm in town, I'll give you a tour.
But you never hear anymore. You're like a world traveler. We can't get a hold.
COVID shot. That's it. So no, but I'll be back. And I'd like to have to bring the mayor over. I think your mayor's actually seen it. Dave ran by one day. I grabbed him. I think I grabbed the mayor of Lock Harbor also one day with his lovely wife, and we saw it. But we're waiting on the final painting of the floor. So after the
That's
floor
right.
repair,
Virtually done.
yeah, virtually. So
I think those guys behind you have a beer for you there, Don.
they probably do. 319 grant. We had some great news on that, and I'm gonna let Jack talk about the floating wetlands. Go ahead, Jack.
So we had the floating wetland islands got delivered finally. Long story. Last Tuesday they were supposed to show up. They urged us to be there and make sure had them off the trucks in less than a half an hour, otherwise we're going to get fined. And they told us the truck left at a certain time. And 2 hours later, they called and said, well, the truck left, but it didn't have the islands on it. So how they missed that, not sure. They're pretty big. And then the next day, the second set of islands showed up without us being told. So that was Doug McQueen was going to be receiving those, and he was in Colorado still. Nobody called to let him know. So we had quite a few calls with the manufacturer who discussed it with the shipping broker, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, this past Tuesday, Don and myself, Doug McQueen, another Johnny Kisby from Princeton Hydro, and a whole slew of volunteers. What do we have? 8 other people, Don, in addition to
the
Yep. 4 of us?
Correct.
We had those islands, all the islands for both Wesley and Sunset Lakes off the truck in under an hour, and tarped up, secured, everything. It was great. So they're all there and ready to go with signs in front of them explaining what they are. And we plan to be able to install them in, I want to say, 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to work on the schedule. Princeton Hydro schedule is going to be hashed out for the entire summer in the next week. And so we should know when we plan to install, but it should be within the first 2 weeks of June is what we're shooting for.
Right.
And we're planning for 3 days, but if we have the amount of volunteers that, even the amount of effort that we had on Tuesday, it'll go very smoothly, and I could foresee it getting done in about 2 days potentially. They might be 2 long days, but they could get done.
The wetlands themselves are very impressive. By the way, they're
Yeah.
well made, and you can just tell it's going to be a success. So it's great to see.
Absolutely. So we should be able to get that going. If anybody wants to help out, once we have a date, spread the word. We can use as many hands as possible.
Jack, if you would give the specifics to me, and I'll do what I did last time.
Okay.
And just put it out through an email blast. We can have people respond using our website to contact us.
Cool.
This will be easier because we'll have control of this. So
Yeah.
we'll know a week at a time. So
Yeah, you pretty much picked. But Don, you were and anybody else can correct me if I'm wrong, but weekday is going to be the best for everybody, right?
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
And I have to thank Asbury Park for making sure that the town manager made sure the roads were closed. The Pond Street was closed off by Sunset, which was a big help.
That was really cool.
Yep. And then iStar for opening up the gates at the casino. So we have behind locked gates at the casino, which is wonderful, right by the power plant. And that's where we'll do the installation too. So that was great. iStar helping out. Okay. Thanks, guys.
That's what I got.
And any other 319 issues, Pete?
Yeah, Don, we do. The MTDs have been completed for Grand Avenue, and the final, we call it the swirl chamber, the final one compartment on the big unit is being finished right now. We think, all things considered, Tony wants him here next week. So we're looking into delivery with him tomorrow also. Again, he's not going to deliver them until he has all 3 finished because they're coming on one truck and they're offloaded with one crane. And that's costly for him because he pays for each of those things individually.
I got you. Do we know we're going to put the one on Memorial?
We've gone over it with
We-
Asbury Park, and yeah, we do. So everything should be in line now for the installation. And
Peter,
that's going to be something that we want Asbury Park school system involved in. So when we know the exact date, we'll coordinate it with everyone.
it's great. I saw the one that was marked out on Grand Avenue the other day.
Yes, that's right. We have one on the northwest corner and one on the southeast corner.
By the way, was there any issues with the anything in the coaster today on the wetlands? Did anybody see the coaster today? Because they got the pictures and the information on it. I don't know if they put it in. Anything? No.
I didn't get mine.
I didn't see the coaster.
Neither did I.
Okay. It
And
wasn't.
I
It wasn't.
continue to
In,
work, Don, I'm continue to work with Ocean Grove on the rain gardens. And when our
Okay.
final plans are done, I'm going to meet with their operations manager and talk to a couple committees there. They like committees,
Okay.
so I'll work
Yeah.
with them and get approval for all that.
but I guess eventually we're gonna have to get that all on RFP with the rain gardens and tree boxes and all that, right? So, eventually. I guess we can talk about that next month, right? The next phase,
Yep.
the
Yes.
tree boxes. Okay. The Ability Crest update. Hunt, do you have any more on that? I know we owe a phone call to the lawyer, right?
Actually, I had a couple of discussions with him, most recently an hour ago.
Okay.
Look, just to bring the commissioners up to date, the Nobility Crest attorney replied to our letter, and basically it was a denial of anything happening. I mean, they clearly just said nothing happened. So obviously that going the way of the spirit of cooperation is not going to work. So the question is, where do we go from here? And before I took any further action with the board, I wanted to run a whole bunch of issues by the attorney for Ocean Township, since it's within their jurisdiction, and as a courtesy, I would certainly let them know what we're thinking about doing. So I've been in discussions with Mr. Arbus, and like I said, as recently as about an hour ago, which raised more questions than it answered. So I think we're probably heading for the scheduling of a executive session the next time at the next meeting to discuss this whole thing and go through essentially where we are. But because it involves all sorts of issues, it warrants the executive session rather than do it in the public
But
forum.
the lawyer understands he's actually in the watershed dealing, right? He did understand that. You made that clear. To him,
I'm
right?
not sure what he understands. I'm not sure what he understands, but he's admitting to nothing. So
Okay.
that's where we are.
Very
So
good, Hunt. Thank you. And by the way,
when do
go
we need an executive session, Hunt?
Probably at the next meeting,
So before
next month's regular meeting. Yes.
before the next month's meeting?
And that raises another question. Will we be doing live meetings by then? Who knows? I don't know where we're heading with that. So
I doubt it. But we'll see.
then I got to figure out how to do an executive session with a Zoom meeting. So that's another, Jesse and I will work that out.
Yeah.
So
But will it be like the hour before the meeting, the way we generally do our sessions next month?
no, it would be during the regular meeting. It would just be probably, again, Jesse and I will work out the details, but typically what you would do is finish the public discussion. See, no formal action can take place in an executive session. So you have to vote to go into executive session. Then when it's over, you come back out, and then you have your regular motions to close out the meeting. Or take official action. That's where the mechanics of the Zoom meeting come into problematic.
It comes after the public session.
It's the end of the meeting, and then we would take no formal action. It would just carry over to the next meeting. But I got you. I bring everybody up to date.
Okay.
I'll talk with you, honey.
I wonder if we would close out of the Zoom meeting, that the link that's available to the public, and only give the link to those of us who are in executive session.
Well, I'm sure we're not inventing the wheel. So Jesse and I'll go over how we're going to logistically handle it.
I'm sure Ken can handle it. I also sure Ken can handle that and knock the folks off.
We've
that are
done
not
it,
part of the
Ocean, where
commission.
we
Well,
break
we'll-
out and we do it like a breakout room.
Oh, okay.
A separate, separate Zoom
Right.
session.
There you go. Okay, on the same subject, most of you saw the note from Marty Martino, and I am going to send him the original letter. I think he also asked for the response. I'm not ready to give that up yet until we have the executive session. So I will give him the letter we sent out. So that's going to go out to Marty. He did send a request in finally for it, and we're going to uphold that. So, okay, any other questions of Ability Press? We're going to move on. Shoreline protection. Jeannie and I are working a response to the state, and we'll have that out hopefully in a week or so. We're going to have that out to the state and hopefully get a read back on that. The weed treatment is tomorrow. It happens tomorrow. So if you're around Colonial Terrace area, you'll see the weed folks going. And Steve, I don't know if you're going. I think Brian Mullins is going to try to show up and look around, and maybe Steve Merle will also stop by.
Yeah, I didn't have any plans on watching them spray.
Yeah, they don't. You don't need to. I mean, and they're on their own.
My plan is to, make observation in about 14 days, which is, about the typical time we should start to see die off. And just to add one thing, Jeannie, at your request, I did ask them to take a quick look while they're on the lake at that area immediately east of Wickapaco. So somebody should be taking a look at that from Solitude.
Thank you.
I am going to call Ocean on watering tomorrow. Just remind them they've been notified.
Yeah.
So we're just going to. I want to give them a call in the morning because they need to do the watering. Right. They usually do the watering anyway. So.
But yeah, I saw the shared correspondence on that, so they have been alerted.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank you.
Steve, just to say, the weeds we can see some of them about a block and a half away from the bridge. So not immediately around the bridge, but further east. I don't know if he needs that information, but just to be more specific, just to give you that.
All right, I'll try to send Bob that information. I told him it was east of the bridge, but okay.
Thank you.
He's not treating that. He's only looking at it, right?
Yep.
Okay. Coca-Cola plant. That's Steve. Do you have an update on that? Steve.
Yeah, I think Peter. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's the ball is in their court.
No, I can advise them on this. I don't think I'm
okay.
Speaking out of place to advise you that the application was scheduled for hearing next Wednesday before the Neptune Township Planning Board. Earlier today, the applicant requested adjournment from that date and rescheduling for the regular meeting in, I believe, the month of July.
Wow.
Take it for whatever it's worth. You can
Got it.
take it to mean they're rounding up their political pressure, or you can take it to mean they're going back to the drawing board to complete some of the things that we represented to them in our reports.
So the report that we paid for from Steve, that got in the hands of the contractor, correct?
No.
Oh, it didn't?
It did not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. That's separate.
That was, yeah. Yes, it is.
Got it. Okay. Okay, thank you
So
for that
we
update.
will advise on any change in timing for this.
And Peter, what's the date of that meeting? I just want to put it down on my calendar in case I have to be there.
The next week's meeting was Wednesday, May 26th. And the request was for the meeting of Wednesday, July 28th.
Okay, got it.
Great.
No, nothing on carp remediation, but goose remediation. Obviously, hot topic, and we've been doing good on that. Jeannie, you want to give the updates on that?
Well, I haven't heard back from Nicole. I asked her for just kind of a general assessment of how many nests she's treated. So as soon as I have that, I'll share that with the rest of you. But, she finishes up the end of this month, and I will be sending out another email blast to everyone doing the same thing again. If anybody sees a nest, contact us so we can contact her. So there's still, if you hear or you know of anybody that's seeing goose nests, they can let us know, and we'll get them treated as quickly as we can get the permission slip signed.
We know a bunch have been already, we've been contacted by a bunch of folks. And also she's asked us to get permission. So I would think 6, 7 houses have been treated. 2 have not. I think 2 are not.
I gave out at least 4 permission slips. That's just Asbury. So there have to be more than 6. I think, I don't know. So as soon as I know, I'll give you that information. But we'll definitely know everything. Today's the 20th. So in 10 days she's finished, and then she'll give us some kind of a report. So
and we're seeing, I saw two small groups of these babies, 2 4-packs, I call them. They were walking around Interlake. So
well, this is.
I think they were probably in back of homes that we didn't know about. That's probably my guess. Okay, let me keep on rolling. No updates on the Ship and Swift program. Seaview Mall updates, nothing on that at the present time. The restoration of the lakes, we're going to be talking to that. We have a new town manager in Ocean, and that's going to be one of my main topics when I introduce myself to him in the next coming week. So I hope to have a lot more on that when we meet again. And Jeannie, we have water testing. I love you have introduce our friends from Monmouth University.
First want to thank Jason Adolph, Dr. Adolph, and Erin Conlon for doing what they do, which is training water testers to test Deal Lake and keep great records on the data. And they're here tonight to present to us some of the data and help us understand what's been collected. And I think first, I don't know who is here. I told the lakes samplers that I wanted to invite them to come so we could congratulate them and thank them for being out there throughout the COVID epidemic. Douglas Haddad, Caitlin Salduti, Donna Tripoli, Marianne Eels, Man Van Oosterhout, I know I said that wrong, Rita and Steve Niddle, Jerry Maurer, Jeff Gold, and Steve Verderies. I don't know if any of you guys are here. You can raise your hand if you are. I don't know if anybody's, Marianne is here, I think. Marianne, do you want to unmute? And, there's Matt. Hey, thank you. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Especially, especially this year. I know what it was like. I started out in the beginning too, and it was just tough to work with another person when you just didn't know who was safe to work with, how close. And when you have a partner, you have to work closely with them. So thank you for being so brave and sticking with it. And I guess it's continuing. So Jason and Aaron will talk to that. But would you like any of the samplers? Do you want to say anything about your experience or?
Marianne, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm just going to say that it was a long, cold winter, but it was good to get out. Today was gorgeous on the lake, which made it worth it. I made a complaint to the Environmental Commission back, I guess, November, December about some trees. I think, Don, you know about trees that were pushed way back. Is anything being done about that? Who should I talk to about that? That doesn't seem right.
The head of the Environmental Commission would be best. Or the road department, be honest with the road department. And we can actually talk to the new manager about it. So if you have some photos you can share with me, and I will show them to him.
Okay, great. It is a beautiful area. Now, what's the story with dredging over there? Has it been approved by the state or no?
Whereabouts? You mean in Fireman's Pond? Lollipop
no,
Pond,
west of Wickapeco.
Between. Right. All those 4 lakes are under discussion with the town. We're going to try to use our resources between the town and the county and the state to try to get those around. So at least part of the organic side. So that's what we're trying to do.
Anything else, Marianne?
No,
about
that's it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks again. Matt,
Okay.
did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I think it's just really great to get the opportunity to take the actual measurements. You can see the lake throughout the year, and wintertime it kind of looks okay, but by now this time of year it just really. I measure fireman's pond, by the way, between Interlaken and Wanamassa.
Right.
Right now you can just see that it all gets muddy and mucky, and you take the measurements and they back it up. Like oxygen is at 5 parts per million, and it just has to drop a little bit lower, and the whole thing will kind of die off again for the summer. And yeah, no, it's I like doing it, and I did it by myself, so I didn't have any COVID issues. I do care about the fireman's pond, and I actually wrote a little bit on it. I made a proposal. I'm going to stick it in the chat for anyone who has any interest in it. But yeah, Jason, I'm looking forward and Aaron to some data.
Yeah. And I see the Niddles, somebody from the Niddles. You're there. Is there anything you wanted to say, Rita and Steve? I guess not, right? Nothing. I saw you unmuted, but we don't hear you if you're saying anything.
Yeah, Jeannie, we got to get rolling.
Okay.
With
All right.
Jason's
So now we're going to the main event, and that is, well, I shouldn't say that because the main event of the testers, but Jason and Aaron are here. So please go ahead, Jason and Aaron, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Jeannie and Don and the rest of the commission. I do need to share my screen. If I can do that.
Yeah, right, you heard that. Ken, did you hear that? Ken?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you all and the samplers for giving me a few minutes to describe where we are with this project, CLONET. So in terms of background, I don't think I need to explain to anyone on this call how important coastal lakes are. Part of the shore, they have a historical significance as fish habitat. They're connected to the ocean, and currently within this very developed area along the shore, they're nice refuges that people like to go to, like Matt was saying, and it's a nice thing to have in the community. So CLONET has been a citizen science effort, and this here is straight from the data sheet, showing all the names that have been that show up in the data sheet. The bigger the name, the more the name shows up. And I can't say, for instance, that it's always the same Steve. And the Niddles always put their name twice, so they're really big, but they do sample a lot. Rita and Steve. But we've had 65 different samplers at the beginning of the program in May 2019 at 31 stations on 8 different lakes, for a total as of May 17th of 620 observations of the lakes. And for that, I just want to say thank you. And you know, the point of this program as a participatory citizen science program is both to engage people and communities in the stewardship and restoration of these lakes and to collect data towards that goal. These are in the Deal Lake, Sunset, and Wesley area, the stations that have been historically sampled. And these are the samples, when I look at the data set, that have had data within the last 6 months or so. It took us a while, but for Deal Lake, we got good coverage finally with the help of Steve Souza, who kind of directed us to where we should cover. Sunset, we don't need a whole lot of samples there. And Wesley, these 2 samples have been done by the Wesley Lakes folks since the beginning. So that's the coverage that we have. And you may or may not know that my lab group, led up by Aaron, now does weekly sampling at the same lakes, measuring some of the same and some other parameters. So the parameters that SIP measure, you know this, but I'll just say a little bit about it. Water temperature, and what we look for with that in terms of interpretation is what the annual cycle looks like and what it looks like within and between lakes when we compare them. And also we can use that data to compare back to historical comparisons. The oldest lake temperature data I have is the 1978 report, and the lakes are 5 to 10 degrees warmer now than they were back then. Conductivity tells us about, in these coastal lakes that have saltwater intrusion, tells us about saltwater intrusion or swimming a lot, but more generally about total dissolved solids, at least solids that dissolved solids that conduct electricity. And the way you interpret that is look for deviations from long-term averages for a given lake. Secchi depth, we're measuring water transparency or clarity. And this is a very broad trophic state indicator that's been used in lakes worldwide, and it has been related to lots of other properties of lakes. It's one of our indicator measurements that we have. So if any of the folks on the call are not able to get Secchi depth at their site now, then talk to me or Aaron about modifying where you sample for. You know, some people have been missing that. pH is an important habitat delimiter for different organisms. I have a chart here from a Fondrace website showing different fish or organisms and their minimum pH levels. And then dissolved oxygen, of course, is required for aquatic organisms to breathe. And this can be related to a general scale where 0 to 2 is bad and things die. 2 to 5 is borderline, and this is parts per million. 5 to 14 is normal, and then there are actually some diseases of fish eyes that are associated with very high oxygen in water. So with that context, we can start to look lake by lake. I'm going to show a series of plots and just think about what parameters are similar, what are different between lakes. Temperature is not a good one to start with because the temperature depends on when a lake was sampled, and they weren't all sampled at the same time. So Spring Lake was sampled only during the summer one year, so it's got temperatures up here. But as we start to move on, Secchi depth from the very start, and I just want to make the point that it's been consistent throughout the project, has been a variable parameter between lakes. Sunset has been consistently low compared to places like Takanashi that have been high. Deal Lake, you can see there's different subpopulations. That just reflects how complicated Deal Lake is. There are parts where the Secchi depth is relatively high, clear water, and parts where it's low, similar to Sunset. Dissolved oxygen does not show a lot of variability between lakes, but within each lake, there's a broad range, especially for the ones that have been sampled extensively, especially for Deal Lake again. The percent saturation, so a lake would be at 100% oxygen saturation if there's nothing happening in it biologically, and it was in equilibrium with the atmosphere. Most of the lakes, Deal Lake in particular, are below that, which means that there are oxygen-consuming processes that are going on there. I see 2 raised hands.
Yeah, Jason, it's Steve. Perhaps what you can do, maybe there's people that are not familiar with the box whisker type presentation of the data. So maybe you can just explain to them what they're seeing there, you know, when you talk about variability and the mean and et cetera.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Steve. So each of these box and whiskers are showing the statistical summary of all the individual data points, which are shown as red spots around the data. So this is the median. This is the 25th and 75th quartiles, and these are the 5th and 95th quartiles of the data. So if I didn't show you the dots, we would just be looking at the median here, and you can compare the line from lake to lake and see what's higher or lower. But by showing the dots on top of that, we can see the distribution of the actual measurements that went into calculating this. pH is another parameter that's been consistently different among lakes. So we have places like Wesley and Deal that have a lot of low pH. Again, though, Deal has this whole other set of measurements, which is probably a different station, which are higher pH. And if you're getting the picture that Deal Lake is a very heterogeneous lake compared to the other ones, that's probably accurate. And then conductivity, you can see most of the lakes have very little low conductivity, which would mean low saltwater intrusion. In the case of Como, I know that the folks at Como sample near the outfall, which used to have influx from the ocean, but no longer does. And then Deal Lake, there are parts of Deal Lake that get saltwater intrusion, and there are parts that don't. So these are time series of the same data. I just want to point out a few quick things. This red line here, anything above that is 25 degrees Celsius, and those are the temperatures that favor harmful algal blooms. So you can see, based on the citizen data, year to year, for how long, you think of it as a window with that measurements are above 25, that's when the lakes are going to be most susceptible to potentially toxic, harmful algal blooms. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here. There's someone drawing on the screen, it's not me. If we look at Deal Lake alone and the stations there, one, you can see by the changing color over time, especially most recently, that the stations being sampled have changed. And that's just because the personnel doing the sampling has changed. Down here, what I've started to see in Deal Lake and in Wesley Lake are these winter, some high conductivity readings. Let me go to Wesley Lake and show that more clearly, because there's less saltwater intrusion you would expect in Wesley Lake. And I suspect that this might be road salt running off into the lakes, causing higher conductivity, which is a signal that we're picking up through the citizen sampling. The other thing I wanted to point out with this Wesley Lake time series is that Gail Rosewater has been communicating to me when they've done different things, like geese deterrence, and I've started to annotate the graphs with that. And so what we can start to do is look for changes in key water quality parameters as a result of those things. My lab has been doing monitoring of these lakes since 2019, and I just wanted to show these time series of a parameter that citizens don't measure, which is HAB biomass, phycocyanin and fluorescence. So in Deal and Sunset, you can see 2019 and 2020 blooms, where the points are red, the temperature is above 25, and you can see that tends to be associated with high levels of cyanobacteria, but not always. Silver and Sylvan had these cooler water blooms. And I wanted to tell everyone that this summer, my lab has a grant with DEP and EPA to look at HABs, focusing on biomass, community composition, and toxicity in Deal Lake and Sunset Lakes and the adjacent ocean as it outflows. So Don, maybe I'll have to get information from you on when you're opening the gates.
We have that information.
DEP at Leeds Point is continuing to do nutrient analyses of all the lakes this summer, which is a wonderful service they provide us. And we're working on looking at the impacts of rainfall and stormwater runoff on coastal lake water quality, using the data collected by citizens and my lab to look at that. So in conclusion, what we've seen with the citizen water quality data is that there are important differences between lakes, but I would characterize the overall water quality as generally poor. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the lakes, and I look forward to linking the data that we're collecting in this project to the objectives and the goals for restoration by gathering information on activities, treatments. You were talking about the floating islands, the MTDs. When they're installed, we want to annotate that on the graph and see if and how the parameters change. We used to have coastal lake summits at Monmouth University when we could all get together, and those were great for cross-fertilizing ideas. There's funding coming up. It's not until 2024, but I think in the long term. I think we'll be very well positioned for that. I just resubmitted to the Plangier Foundation, who funds this project, a continuation of it, and that would include getting enough handheld HAB probes, the kind that the state uses, to get into the hands of our citizen monitors, add another and very important parameter to what they measure.
HAB probes measure is that what they do? They measure at the HAB level?
They measure harmful algal bloom abundance, or an indicator of that at least.
Okay.
Jason, you need a letter from us in support of that. We'll be willing to do that.
It's already been submitted.
Okay.
And then I have one last thing to show you. And this is what I want to start doing with the data. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to.
Hey, Jason, while you're loading that up, I just wanted to make a point that I'm on another HAB committee with DEP that when we just met yesterday, and Vic Peretti, who is one of the lead HAB scientists with DEP, they are making available on they'll lend the phycocyananometers, so those HAB meters, and they are making those meters available. So I do have some information that Vic made available yesterday, and I can share that. It was something that I had asked to add to the agenda at the end, but I can make that information. I'll send that over to you, Jason, as well. But I can make it available to the to the commission.
Yeah, we actually have one from DEP that's in use by a CLONET sampler, Katie Salduti, who does Deal Lake and Sunset Lake.
Okay.
But we need upwards of 10 to 15 of them for all the lakes. But thank you. So can you see this very colorful screen on my screen now? Graphs and stuff?
No.
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 Okay, well, hold on. But that's not good.
I think you have to go back to shared screen.
How about now?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, I think you're right, Stephen.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been doing Zoom for if you think I'd be really good at this. How about now?
All right.
Yes.
Good.
Okay, so this is an app that contains all the CLONET data, and this is just an example of where I want to go with it. So it's the same time series here that I just showed, the same box and whisker plots, and this is called a cluster analysis. It groups similar stations by the measurements that have been made at them over time. And the whiz bang part of this, that's I think is really useful, and we'll make this a website, is that you can define a time range to look at data for. And everything updates accordingly. So for this particular time range, which is May through September 2019, we have Lake Takanashi, and Deal Lake Colonial Terrace grouping out separate from all of these: Como, Spring Lake, Lake Tack Trestle, Ross Island. and Como outfall, which always comes out differently because it's got so much salt. Then we can slide that date window wherever we want in the time series, and everything will update and show you the time series, the box and whisker plots, and this. So we have so much data now that I think it's really important that we together come up with ways to put it in a more manageable way for the people collecting it to look at it and interpret it. And sometimes you got to subset the data to look at it and make sense of it. We look at all the most recent data, for instance, from December through May. There's 3 clear groupings of lakes based on measurements. And the other thing this solves is it takes away that issue of some lakes being sampled less frequently than other lakes, because when you define a set time range, then you're just looking at things that have been sampled within that time range. So I think this will be a really useful tool for us going forward. And
yeah, I think, Jason, I think the key for your data is going to be looking back or looking forward after we do all these improvements, 319 grants and such, plus the effort with the NJIT folks, green algae. So they're trying to eliminate blue-green algae in Deal Lake. So next year should be pretty exciting for your testers, and hopefully we'll get better readings of it soon. So that's what we're hoping for, right?
yeah, that's what, we've got a great baseline of data for all these projects that are going on now. It's really exciting to think about actually detecting improved water quality as a result of them, and be able to compare that to the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Data.
Great.
So,
I'm gonna, Jess, you're pretty much done, right? Is that your final conclusion?
well, I have an acknowledgement slide, but I'll just say thank you to all the samplers and the Deal Lake Commission and everyone that's been helping with this project along the way. And to this was ultimately funded by the Jules L. Plangier Family Foundation, and hopefully will be funded further by them.
That's fantastic. Is there any way we're 1 second, Jeannie? We're also going to be able. You're going to provide the slides, and Jeannie will be able to get them on the website for us, right?
Yeah,
they're accessible. That's excellent.
And I just want to thank Erin. Erin, thanks for being so cooperative. As soon as I reached out to you, you replied right away and got in touch with the people that were interested, and that's what made it really work. So thanks so much.
I tell you, a lot of
people involved.
Yeah, a lot of people like to do it too. I mean, we have a lot more people involved with the lake cleanups because of your efforts. So we thank you guys at Bob.
And we're getting more school kids involved too. We've got a meeting with we've got Neptune High School involved. We've got a meeting with Ocean Township Intermediate School tomorrow. I think that's important. That's an important aspect as well.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, there's this one kid, Mark Gleason. He's a freshman at Ocean Township High School, and he's interested in doing lake volunteer services. So I'll get you his information, Jason, because he reached out to us, and I said I would get back to him. But I'd be even interested in mentoring them if you need somebody to mentor, a high school kid or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be great. And with Erin around and on board, it's so much easier to do that kind of stuff because she's really good at it and has the time.
Of course, with this whole MTD project and the floating wetlands, you guys are more welcome to help out with that. Any suggestions?
You're going to just continue then, right? With the testers we have, do you need any more testers?
I think there's, maybe there's, I don't think we need any right now. I know people will get fatigued over time and it might be good to rotate out. But I think we've so far been able to find a place for all interested people to work if they're interested, and we have the resources to do that. So I'm never going to turn down people who are interested.
Okay, well, just let us know when, if you need, somebody wants to leave or give up for a while, I'll use our communication system to, reach out and ask people, because we always get somebody that responds. So that's really great.
So we're going to keep the ball rolling. Right now, is there any questions from the commissioners for the team, for the Monmouth University? Just from the commissioner. Okay, hearing none, we're going to say anybody from the public has any questions, we're going to leave that for the public session. So Jason, you can stick around. That'd be great. We don't have too much more. I did miss one thing. That was the 319 grant phase 1 with NJIT. They are doing depth work tomorrow. They're going to be doing soundings around the lake, and all that information is going to be very critical. And I'm sure they're going to share it with Monmouth University, Deal Lake Commission, and we'll be able to get that information on their website. So we'll have a new map of Deal Lake depth sometime in the next few months. They'll be doing that work tomorrow. You'll see boats floating around the lake. So that'll be our friends from NJIT. Again, thanks, Jason, and your team. That's wonderful. We're going to move on to Corley's Avenue Bridge update. We have a link on our website if you want any additional website information. They're moving along with comments from the public, so you can just go to our link and right to the Corley's Avenue website on that. Okay. Any other old business I missed?
The 20,
number 14.
the 2021 assessments, they've all been paid except for Interlaken.
Okay. And we do have a meeting. Carol and I were planning for a meeting with the mayor of Interlaken. It's in his camp. I was going to give a presentation to the council. So
He got back to us on that today, Don.
Oh,
So
good.
we can talk about a couple of dates. He gave us some dates that he's available.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are we going to be voting on geese remediation using the product that you've discussed, and that you were going to treat some areas east?
I'm going to hold that off to next month, and I'll tell you why. Because right now the geese are still in nesting form, so it doesn't really work too well when they're nesting. So we're going to hold that off to next month. But I did get permission of Ocean Township, and I'm going to help you out with Asbury and the other towns. I haven't heard back. I think Allenhurst was a yes, but I'm not 100% sure. Bruce,
Allenhurst was a yes. I'm 100% sure.
Okay, great. And I don't know about Lock Harbor yet. So
Lock Harbor is no. Lock Harbor is a no.
Okay, got it. Okay. Some new business before we get going. We have the, if you saw in the paper last week, there was a bill in the Senate, a $10 million bill for lake funding. And it was our friends from Lake Apacon. Actually, it was a senator from Lake Apacon, Greenwood Lake section that was pushing the bill. And we do know all those players up there. We've been having meetings for the last couple of years as a joint group. We call ourselves in New Jersey, our Plan New Jersey, which is the Public Lakes Association of New Jersey. So I was kind of surprised to see the bill coming in with Lake Apacon's name and Greenwood Lake's name. And so we've been working behind the scenes with Vinico Powell and Eric Cotelling. And Eric Cotelling has some words of wisdom for us today. Eric, you want to tell everybody what's going on now with the bill?
Well, first I have to just commend our chairman for the wonderful job that you have done on this with communicating and actually communicating your displeasure of how this bill is, and reaching out to me about this as well. And when you first reached out, and I read this in the paper, at the time there was no assembly sponsor, so we reached out right away to see if we could get the bill, and the bill was reserved for somebody, and we weren't sure who. So we kept trying, and finally we found out it was who the assembly member was. And, Don also mentioned some other people that were on the bill, but still we could not find the bill when we tried to do our research on it on the assembly side. So today we had a voting session, and the sponsor of the bill, who who he heard was the sponsor. I spoke to him today and he said, yes, I am the sponsor of this bill. And I told him, I said, well, we have some issues with the bill because the Deal Lake is not included, the largest coastal lake in the state of New Jersey, and, so on and so forth. So he said, you know what, let's get together after the meeting and we'll talk about it. So we went through our whole entire voting session today. We had almost 90 bills, 2 of which were mine and one was Joanne Downey's, and Vingo Powell had a few as well. But anyway, at the very end of the voting session, this legislator who had a piece of, I would say, political legislation got up and made a big deal about it. And he came after the speaker, and the speaker is the guy that posts all the bills. He came after all the General Assembly members on the Democratic side who vote on legislation. So I had told Joanne, hey, I'm going to reach out to this guy, and after the voting session, I'll see what we can do. So when this was all going on, I said to Joanne, who's my running mate, I said, Joanne, I'm just going to do my own bill because this bill will go nowhere. So come to find out, there is another sponsor who actually is the sponsor of the bill, and that's John Berzicelli, who is also the chair of the Budget Committee. So I spoke to him about it, and he said, yeah, let's sit down and talk about it, and we will do what needs to be done for the Deal Lake. So, we think we have this thing, and it's a good piece of legislation. But Don, you were very adamant about this thing, and I just want to let everybody know what a good job you did for the Deal Lake.
Thanks. And it's also our friends at Lake Apacon are all over it. Marty Kane and their team of the foundation and the commission up there, because it's geared, there's funding, direct funding for Lake Apacon, Greenwood Lake, and he believes that's going to be a detriment to the bill and it's going to kill the bill. So we kind of want the funding kind of pulled for all the lakes and awarded on merit. You award on your merit of your projects. And it was also geared to the Highlands area and also the Pinelands, which we have no idea how the Pinelands got in there. So there's some revisions needed on both bills. I guess if it's now in the assembly now, Eric. I'm not sure how this stuff works. But, okay.
Yeah. So what happens? Anybody can introduce legislation. Anybody. Anybody can have a great idea, but the trick is to try to get the bill to the finish line, and work with other legislators, work with the speaker. First move is it's been introduced. Second move is to try to get it into a committee, and at the committee it gets vetted by the committee members. Sometimes if they have issues, they'll try to put an amendment on it, and the sponsor can agree or not agree with the amendments. But that's the next step, is to try to get this bill into the committee. Now, I'm not sure where it's wound up. I would hope it would be nice if it was in my agriculture committee, but it sounds like it may be either in the budget committee or the environmental committee.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Okay.
But we have a good shot making this bill work with, and I told Don, I said, whatever it is that you just need to let me know, and we'll work to get that to make that happen.
Eric, is it $10 million for 1 year, or is it just one shot for 10 million?
I think it's one shot for 10 million. For me, that's not a lot of money, but that could be watered down. And like I said, the trick is to get the bill to the finish line. So sometimes you got to do whatever you got to do to make that happen.
Well, thanks for your help. You jumped right on it, and I appreciate that. Next, let's have a commissioner's minute. I don't have any new business. Any other new business that's on the table?
I do. I mean, I sent you a list of things that I wanted to bring up tonight. There were like 4 or 5 quick things.
Go ahead. Shoot.
Okay, so first off, Jeannie, the deadline, and I emailed this out to you guys. So the deadline for the NOMS posters, if there's any of the schools that want to submit their poster for formal recognition, that's June 1st. It has to be submitted by June 1st.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you need the link to that, just email me. But that's number one. Number two, I wrote an article about Deal Lake that is going to be published in the Anjac Summer, sort of like their magazine. It's called The Tale of Two Lakes. I already, sent over to Don and Jesse pre-publication copies of it. But once it gets published by Anjac, then it could be put up on the Deal Lake website. But I would please ask you to wait until it gets published in Anjac. And basically, it's just sort of a comparison of the efforts of both Deal Lake and Lake Mohawk, so a suburban lake and an urban lake, and how their efforts are interweaved, and et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, that's going to be published in about a month, and when that comes out, then if the commission wants, they can put it up on the website.
Great.
And then relative to that legislation, I did send over to you, Don, Jesse, Peter, Jack, and Jeannie, just a copy of the draft Senate bill. And, so Eric, thanks so much on, jumping on that, because there's there's definitely things that need to be amended with that bill. Because right now it is slanted, and I'm afraid that Deal probably would be low on the totem pole with respect to being, getting consideration. And then I already sent over to Jason the contact information for that kid from Ocean Township High School that's interested in volunteering. But, Jack can potentially also use him to help with the planting. So Jack, get in touch with me. I'll get you his info. And then the final thing is there's this material. It's called biochar. It's basically almost like an activated charcoal. It was utilized up at Lake Hopatcong as part of their stormwater projects that were funded through the HAB grants. And there's another company that has a clone of this biochar material that's interested in doing some type of cost share experiment with their material. So basically, it's sort of like a sock that's filled with this stuff. You put it in a catch basin and it removes phosphorus, bacterium, metals, dissolved pollutants. And it might be something that the commission might want to consider, because it would be, be done at a cost that would be lower than typical, but it'd be consistent with what's being done and, around the lake, and maybe another means of addressing stormwater loading. So I can get you more information on that, but I basically want to know if the commission's interested at all before I proceed, in introducing the commission to this supplier.
I think as long as it's west as we can go, and try to capture before it gets into the upper ponds, I think that would be the best spot, right? And do some pre-testing before we put them in.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, all right. That's it on my end.
I'm interested to learn more about that and have us.
We'll just get pricing, Jeannie, and we'll work on it from there. So
I'll get you the spec on the material first. So it's similar to that, the kind of stuff that you put in those in the tree boxes. It'd be similar to that, but it's it's an alternative, and it could be you don't like I said, you could put it in almost what would be like a sock that would be inserted into a catch basin and then periodically removed and replaced. But they are using it up at a PATCOM.
Yep.
It helps to clean up the water, basically, right? Removing pollutants.
Yeah. Low cost, low tech type of approach.
It cuts down the food for the green blue algae.
Yep.
And as the charcoal gets used up, because it does over time, you do have to replenish it. You can use that actually as like mulch or fertilizer for like garden.
Gotcha.
How long would these typically last, Steve?
It's all dependent on the flow rate. So, if you put it into a catch basin that might have only about 2 or 3 acres draining to it, you might go a half a year before you have to replace it.
Okay.
If it's something that's getting a lot of flow, I mean, it wouldn't be really appropriate for a high flow area, but, for lower flow areas or like smaller drainage areas. Like, for instance, it'd be something that you could use at Nobility Crest. I mean, it'd be, suitable for like sites like that. But yeah, I'll get you more information, and but I think it is applicable for the lake as like one of these low cost, relatively low cost, low tech type of
I think
options.
if we get anything close to the dump areas, Seaview and also Neptune Dump, I think that would be probably the biggest impact, right?
Yeah,
taking out.
that too.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Steve.
All right.
We got a commissioner's minute, please. Let's start with Carol.
Thanks, Don. I don't have a lot to report. I was just very, very happy to see the MTV marked out on Grand Avenue when I went by yesterday, and I'm excited to see that happen and the impact that it has on the lake. And I'm hopeful that it will have at least as much impact as Asbury's plastic ban bag did, that we saw in our cleanup. And I am continuing to kind of develop, a conceptual educational component for people who walk along the lakeshore and want to learn more about the lake. And I just briefly spoke with Dawn about that earlier this week, and we'll continue to have some conversations. And when I have more to report, I will.
That's great. Great stuff. Margot?
Hi. We cleaned up, hopefully, all the sand for a while on Ocean Place and the little
beautiful
side streets. Yes, we really very happy with how that worked out. And they hand shoveled they really made the effort to go in the crevices and everything. So, and then we're working on making sure that everyone has a lid on their recycling bins.
Very good. Thanks. Eric?
And hopefully having a good summer and people won't pollute.
Absolutely. Eric?
Well, just an update on the bill. I think I spoke about the bill we had for the planned releasing of balloons. We have sent that back to be reworded and rephrased and reworked. And we finally got it back. I'm very happy with the way the wording is on it. We've reached out to the chairman of the committee that it's been assigned to. We have created a database of all the commissions in the state of New Jersey that take care of a lake, environmental groups. We have a lot of support from the Clean Ocean Action, Surf Riders Association, League of Conservation Voters, and the list goes on. So as we get closer to introduction into that committee, we are going to reach out and get the support we need to make sure that this is not looked at as a frivolous piece of legislation, because it's not. It's no different than opening your window and throwing a water bottle out. Releasing a balloon, but at least that where it goes. When you release a balloon, you have no idea where it goes. So, we're working on that, and we have a lot of other stuff going on. And I was also fortunate enough to come when they cut the ribbon for Main Street in Asbury. It was a pretty great event, and thinking about how that's going to be helpful to the Deal Lake. So that's what I got.
That's excellent. Thanks a lot, Eric. Great. Thanks for your help. Alhurst.
Yeah, what I have is far less spectacular and more mundane. First of all, I wanted to report that we had approved, our town had approved the use of the goose repellent for the area west of the path in the park and to the south of Corley's Avenue along the lake. And the other thing I wanted to report was I spotted 2 gigantic wild turkeys out here.
Yeah,
a pair of wild turkeys. Now I don't know if anybody else has seen them, but they were strolling through my backyard. The male jumped up on my porch, looked inside the door. I thought he was going to come inside, try to get inside, and then he went across the street to this home that's been there. That's sort of a wildlife refuge. Nobody lives there. At the very end of Cedar Avenue, but. That's a new bird added to directory or inventory of birds that we have on the lake that we could that we could put in there.
Thank you, Bruce. I'll take note.
Is that part of your?
I took some pictures. I'll send them to you.
All right.
Is that part of the Allenhurst goose remediation plan?
Yeah, but I don't know. I didn't goose them. But I did follow them for a while.
Jeannie,
Okay.
I hope you're healing well, and any last words of wisdom from
Wisdom.
your own?
No, I don't have any words of wisdom, but I just wanted to say that I've been very impressed to see the increasing involvement of the numbers of people, both as you ride along Deal Lake Drive, you see all those new trees that have been planted by the Environmental Shade Tree Commission and everywhere. And it's beautiful to see how, it just keeps increasing. The more people that get involved, the more people get involved. Also, the plastic ban, glad Carolyn mentioned that. I think everybody knows that the plastic ban law is coming into effect statewide. I believe it's 2022, isn't it? 2022. So we can look forward to seeing less plastic everywhere and floating. And also, one thing I wanted to mention is, I know we've been getting a periodic, you've seen them probably, emails from people asking, what can we do about, we see construction being done on the street, and they've been taking up of course, downtown Main Street in Asbury had been under construction, as Eric mentioned, and they've been removing and replacing the old water lines all over the place. And there's a lot of debris and sand and mess. And, people have noticed it and asked what they could do. And I just had a small incident, a small experience on my own street where they were just throwing like a plastic bag kind of over the drain, and it wasn't really doing anything. So I spoke to them, and I spoke to the guy that was in charge, and they came back with those what are compliant undergrade catch basin filters that caught everything, and they put them on 4th Avenue, Drummond Court, everywhere, because I was saying, I'm very interested in protecting Deal Lake. So can you do what you need to do that you're supposed to do with those drains? And they did them. I mean, they actually had them with them, but they don't put them in place because nobody asked. The reason I bring it up is because when you see it, you can go and tell them, what you need. And if you want, I'll send you some pictures of what those undergrade catch basin filters look like.
Please do that. Please do that, Jean. That'd be good. I saw them. You sent them to me. And I think
actually, the guy gave me one, so I'll bring it to them. Yeah, they were glad, I guess, that somebody cared enough, and he gave me the basin. If you want to see it, I'll show you. I have a picture of it.
Very good. And maybe we could put a little note in the website also on it.
Yeah, because people can just on their own go over and ask for the supervisor and say, treat this drain correctly, because they're obliged to do it, but they don't if no one says anything. And
thanks, Jeannie.
Yeah, that ends up in the lake.
Thanks a lot, and I do appreciate a lot of the people, what they're doing around the lake. I mean, Steve Cassidy has been helping North Harbor's shoreline, and he just finished up all of the plantings. And I'm not sure if Steve is there for Deal. Is Steve there? Steve's done a wonderful job getting that up to speed, and basically it's all finalized. He is worrying about water, and we're going to be probably going out asking for volunteers to help water those plantings because we didn't have any rain in the last, I think, 2 weeks. We haven't had rain, so he's a little worried about that. And right now, Deal's tied up with various different projects.
They use those water bags when they planted all those trees. They plant them along Deal Lake Drive with water bags.
This is different. It's bushes, so it's a little harder, but it can be done. We just need some volunteers to get some water. So okay, let me keep rolling. Can I have a motion to open for a public meeting, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, is anybody out there for the public would like to speak? Yes, Brian. I think it's Brian.
I'd just like to thank Dr. Souza for the report he did regarding the impact the current proposed Neptune development by the Coca-Cola distributorship. To me, it was just amazing how little the developers take into account the requirements for stormwater management. I jokingly said it seemed like we did a free report for them because they did so little for themselves. It's really eye-opening how little they even made an attempt to do any kind of water management on a site that's adjacent to a stream that leads into the Deal Lake and is part of the Deal Lake watershed. So, it was amazingly in-depth what Dr. Souza did. So thank you very much for your report.
I think that's
You're
great.
welcome.
I think we're ready for the battle. There's going to be a battle.
It's going to be a battle.
Well, it's good that they know that there will be one, because if there isn't, then they just do, like you said,
Right.
Brian, they just go ahead and figure the least amount of what they need to do. Right?
Yep.
Let me see. Last two digits of the phone, 50. Go ahead. Unmute yourself. I can't do that for you.
You have to unmute 12013.
There you go. Okay, go ahead.
All right, I'm trying. Ernest Mignoli, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Point Beach, Florida. I just sold my place at Deal Lake Drive. I'm looking for another part-time place as I'm a permanent resident in Florida now. But I'll probably come up a few months out of the year. Probably one of the main reasons I sold is because of the disgusting lake, Deal Lake, that I lived on for 15 years. The smelly, polluted, disgusting Sunset, and the toilet bowl, Wesley Lake. And I watched for 15 years the mayor, council, the cities, the commissions do nothing about it except run meetings like this and blah, 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 blah. But you do nothing. The contractors are polluting. The operation bid rig developers, you should see what they're approving. I mean, it's mind-boggling. All around the Deal Lake, they're going to put up 8-story buildings with no parking. They're bringing in tens of thousands of cars. The roads are filled with oil and gas, all going directly into the lake. And all you talk about is plastic bags. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And the other thing is the lawyer still Mr. Parry for the commission?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Is it? Well, is he listening? Hello? This is what I mean. You waste so much of someone's time.
Is
he listening?
Yes, he's nodding his head.
He's not listening?
He is listening.
Okay. Mr. Parry, I want you to know that your commission president, Don Brockle, has blocked me from websites, emails, and your Facebook page. And he continues with some of the mayor and council in Asbury to character assassinate me for years. It's repugnant. It's horrible. It's illegal. And it's caused actual retaliation against me. Remember the 2 police got arrested for coming to my house with knives and guns? And they're all because of these horrible people in the surrounding areas, Deal, Neptune. Look what's going on, what you're creating here. You got polluted lakes, you don't know how to fix it, so you should resign. The other thing is, cops are being busted.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, cops are being busted over and over. Deal, Ocean, Long Branch, Asbury, for running meth labs, drug warehousing. When you run a meth lab, you got to dump waste somewhere. And they had one right next to the Asbury Fire Department, a couple in Broadway and Long Branch. In Deal, you got the officers there arrested for drug manufacturing labs in Long Branch. And the thing is, Mr. Howling, you do nothing about it. Mr. Gopal, you do nothing about it. And look at what happened this past Saturday in Long Branch at a lieutenant's house. Terrorism, bombs, rifles, a meth lab, explosive, right? And the prosecutors covering it all up with the Long Branch police. They're covering it all up like you cover up everything. You all should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for those comments.
Any other public comments? All right, thanks. Can we close the public comment?
Motion to close the meeting, public hearing?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
A motion to close the meeting?
One last word. I didn't get my last word. Thanks for everybody for coming tonight. It was a very good meeting. Jeannie, rest up. I know you're hurting, and I'm sure we'll see you back on your feet shortly. Okay? And by the way, tomorrow look for those boats on the lake. They'll be taking death beverages.
Okay, someone move to close the meeting?
I move to close.
I
Second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?